I think one of the most painful parts of recovery in motherhood is not that we don't know enough. It's that sometimes we know so much and still feel unable to access it when something gets activated. Hey, friend, I am really glad that you're here. Before we begin, I want to invite you into one small pause. Not because you have to become calm before you listen, not because there is a right way to receive this. Just one small moment to arrive. Maybe soften your jaw, maybe let your shoulders drop, maybe place a hand somewhere steady if that feels supportive. And if you're listening while driving, walking, folding laundry, nursing, making dinner, or sitting in the car before going back inside, you don't have to do anything perfectly here. You can simply let these words meet you where you are. In the last audio, we talked about why motherhood can make recovery louder, how pregnancy and postpartum, feeding our children, body changes, appetite, comments, and the invisible load of motherhood can touch places in us that still feel tender. And today, I want to sit with what often happens next. Because once recovery gets louder, so many mothers find ourselves asking, if I know better, why can't I just do better? Why can't I do it more consistently? Why do I still react? Why do I still feel pulled toward old patterns? Why does this still take up so much space? And I want to say this gently. That question can carry so much shame because many of us do know. We know restriction can backfire. We know that bodies are not problems to solve. We know food morality can be harmful. We know our children need structure and permission. We know we want them to trust their bodies. And we know we do not want to pass on the shame that we carried around food or our bodies. We may have read all the books and listened to all the podcasts and talked about it in therapy or followed the experts, saved the scripts, underlined the pages. We may be able to explain exactly why control around food can be harmful. We may deeply believe in body trust, and we may know the kind of mother that we want to be around food and appetite and our bodies. And still, a moment happens. Your child might ask for another snack or refuse the dinner that you worked hard to make, or reaches for more dessert, or says they feel hungry again. Or maybe someone comments on your baby's body or weight, or your daughter's body starts changing. Or you're trying to figure out where that line is between protecting your child and projecting your own fear. You might see a number at an appointment, or your hunger postpartum just feels relentless, or your own body no longer feels familiar. And suddenly the knowledge can feel so far away, not gone, just unreachable. And your body might just react. You notice that your chest tightens, your face gets hot, your stomach drops, your mind starts racing, and there is urgency, a pressure to intervene, to stop something, to fix something, to regain control. And before your wise self can fully enter the room, something in you has already moved. The comment comes out, the look crosses your face, the old food rule returns, the restriction feels tempting, the body checking happens, the old behavior whispers that it can help, and afterwards the shame rushes in. I should know better than this. I should be further along. I've done so much work. I teach my children something different. I know this matters. So why did I still react? Why couldn't I stop myself? Why is knowing better not enough? If that is familiar, I want you to hear this, friend. This does not mean that you are failing. It may mean something in you got activated faster than your insight could reach. Because when we are activated, we aren't only responding to the moment in front of us, we may also be responding to every old place inside of us that that moment touches. The child we once were, the body comments we absorbed, the food rules we learned, the fear of being judged, the shame of feeling like too much, the pressure to get it right, the desperate longing to protect our children from pain. The part of us that learned control might keep us safe. And when these places get stirred, our bodies may move into protection before our minds can access what we know. And this is why knowing better can feel so painful because awareness matters. It does. But awareness alone does not always reach the part of us that learned. Food, bodies, or control were tied to safety. Awareness alone doesn't always reach the part of us that feels danger when our child's appetite looks big. It doesn't always reach the part of us that panics when our bodies change. It doesn't always reach that part that hears a pediatrician's comment and suddenly feels responsible for preventing harm. It doesn't always reach the part of us that believes if we don't control this now, something terrible might happen. And I want to be careful here. This doesn't mean we have no agency. It doesn't mean that we're doomed to repeat old patterns. It doesn't mean the work we've done doesn't matter. It means that the path toward change may need more than information alone. It may need safety, support, practice, compassion, a way to understand what gets activated without immediately turning on ourselves. Because when shame enters after a hard moment, it often tells one story. And that story sounds like, you failed, you ruined it, you should be past this, you aren't strong enough, you are going to pass this on. So hard, right? But compassion lets us ask a different question. What got touched in me? What did this part of me fear would happen? What was it trying to protect? What did I need in that moment that I didn't know how to access? And this is where the inner critic can become a little more understandable, not right, not in charge, but understandable. Because often that critical voice shows up after we get activated and says, do better, get it together, you know better, don't mess this up. And underneath that harshness, there may be a part of us that is terrified of hurting our children, terrified of repeating the cycle, terrified of becoming the voice that wounded us, terrified that we aren't as far along as we thought we were. So even the critic may be trying in its own painful way to protect us from shame, to prevent future harm, to keep us from being rejected, to keep us from feeling powerless. And when we only attack that voice, we may miss what it's actually guarding, a scared part of us, a younger part, a part that still believes control is the safest option, a part that doesn't yet know another way. So instead of trying to force ourselves to know better harder, what if we can begin by creating a little more space? Not a huge transformation in the moment, not perfect regulation, not never reacting again, just a little more space to notice. Something in me is scared. Something in me feels urgency. Something in me wants to control. Something in me is trying to protect. or something in me needs care here too. That small pause can matter because we aren't trying to shame ourselves into a better response. We're trying to build enough safety inside ourselves that a different response becomes more possible. And sometimes that different response doesn't happen in the moment. Sometimes the first practice is noticing afterwards, after the comment was said, or after the reaction happens, after the spiral, after that old behavior felt tempting, or after the shame came in. And I want you to know afterwards still counts. Repair still counts. Reflection still counts. Coming back still counts because the goal is not perfection. The goal here is not to never be activated. The goal is to simply notice sooner, to understand more gently, to repair when we need to slowly separate the present moment from the old wound that it touched, to practice responding from the mother we are becoming, not only from the pain that we're still carrying. And you can be growing and still struggling. Those are not opposites here. And this is why healing in motherhood often needs to happen in real life, not only in our heads, not only in books, not only in quiet moments when no one needs us, but maybe at the kitchen table, at the pediatrician appointment, during snack time, while packing lunches, when our child is asking for seconds, when our postpartum body feels unfamiliar, when our own hunger feels inconvenient, when something old rises before we are ready. This is where the work lives. And this is also why support matters. Not because you need someone to tell you what you already know, or because you need more pressure, or you need to be fixed, but because the gap between knowing and doing can feel incredibly lonely when we carry it by ourselves. It helps to have a place where we can bring the hard moment after it happens, a place where we can say, I reacted again. I got scared. I felt that old urge. I said the thing I wish I hadn't said. I thought I was past this. And instead of being met with shame, we are met with understanding, not excusing, not dismissing, but understanding. The kind that says, of course that got touched. Let's slow down. Let's listen for what happened. Let's see what this part of you is trying to protect. Let's practice what repair might look like. Let's help you come back home to yourself, a place where you don't have to translate how food, body, safety, and motherhood all got tangled together. That kind of support can change things, not instantly, not perfectly, but gently over time. Because the nervous system often learns safety through repeated experiences of not being alone, repeated experiences of telling the truth and not being rejected, repeated experiences of being met with compassion instead of correction, repeated experiences of practicing a new way while still in process. So, if you have been carrying shame because knowing better hasn't fixed everything, I hope you can let this land softly. You aren't broken because insight haven't reached every activated moment. You aren't failing because this still takes practice. You aren't a bad mother because something old gets stirred. You are not beyond help because a part of you still reaches for control. You are a mother in the messy middle, a mother who cares deeply, and a mother who is trying. a mother who may need support that meets her in real life, not just in theory. And maybe the question isn't, why can't I just know better enough to stop struggling? Maybe the question is, what kind of support would help me feel safe enough to do differently when it matters? And that is what we are walking toward together. In the next audio, we're going to talk about what kind of support actually helps in this messy middle. Not more pressure, not more performance, not more information to keep up with, but support that helps us feel seen, steadied, and less alone as we practice healing in real life. And for today, I hope you can carry this with you. Knowing better matters, but it is not the whole of healing. Sometimes the next step is learning how to meet that part of you that gets activated with enough compassion that it no longer has to protect you in the same old way. And just know I am here with you and I will meet you in the next audio.